Did you play this game as a kid or
No.
no? Okay.
Well,
You had to think about that.
no, because I've been thinking about the last couple of days, and I'm like, I never played Double Dragon when I was. Wait, oh, sorry, we're not here to talk about that. I
I
was
played
never
Double Dragon.
okay. Well, I was never much of a Street Fighter kid, but
No.
oh, sorry. What are we talking about today?
See, I was. We'll figure it out. Um, I was a Double Dragon and a Super Contra.
Hmm. No, I was super contraceptive. I only cared about the Porky's movies when I was a kid. Nothing else. No, I watched friends like at the local bowling alley play Street Fighter, and I don't even know if I have ever watched or played a full level, even of Mortal Kombat,
Mm.
because they kind of just felt the same to me. Different styles of graphics. You know, Street Fighter was more cartoony, and Mortal Kombat was more of the kind of the 3D looking, early days with 3D stuff.
Mhm.
It's a shame. It's an embarrassment because I went to the same school as one of the creators of Mortal Kombat, and I worked at a company that created Mortal Kombat, but I never got into it. Um, so yeah, that's my story.
All right. Good night.
Yeah. And I never saw the movie, even though when I was in art school, the
mm,
perfect confluence of events, the school that produced the people who made this thing, that was the year that the first Mortal Kombat movie came out, and people I knew went and saw it. They loved it, and I had no interest, so I didn't. I still haven't to this day.
so the game came out in '92,
Hmm.
um, and a lot of different developers, but primarily Midway. But then the movie was what 90?
I think it was 95
That's crazy.
because I think Annihilation was 97. I could have that wrong,
I
but
wonder if that's the fastest like game to movie time frame.
probably. I
I
mean,
mean, it's like that's 3 years. They could have. I wonder if they said, "Hey, this is really taken off. It should be a movie." Because
yeah.
because honestly, I mean, it shouldn't be a movie. Because I mean, there's you think of when you think of video game. I was thinking about this. You think of video games going to movie. You think. I mean, I know why it became a movie, and I'll get to that. But you typically think, oh, it's becoming a movie because it must have some good story. You would think. I mean, I'm not going to say Sonic Hedgehog has a good story to it. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, and I only played the game maybe a couple times. But like the Halos, the what other games have good stories?
Well, I mean,
Been
in
so long.
fairness, I think certainly the first couple of Resident Evil movies I would stand up for.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
they have, and they even games. They have a Resident Evil has a very kind of dense, really layered story. I okay. Look, I didn't. I already by the time this game came around, I was kind of getting out of going to the arcades, and I didn't get a PlayStation. Um, I think I had a Nintendo, but this came out first in the arcades, right? Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
yeah. And so I just by that time I was just kind of like I never at that point in the early '90s I didn't seek out arcades. I was kind of like you. If I played a video game, it was in a bowling alley or maybe at a movie theater, maybe.
Right.
Um, yeah, but that's the point. I was in my early 20s. I was 20s. I was like, look, if I get sucked into this, that's going to be a lot of money. But back into the time when into my teens, I was just like, I don't care how many quarters it's going to take. I'm going to finish this Super Contra game. You know.
Well, and for me, it was partially a matter of interest, but also I had friends who were really good at it. And even when
Yeah.
I would try and play Street Fighter against anybody, even the damn computer, it's like I put in a quarter or 50 cents or whatever, and I'd be done
Oh
it's almost
yeah.
like playing a slot machine. I'd
Oh
put the
yeah.
money in and it'd just be gone. I'm like, well, now I'm just digging for change again. My
you're,
afternoon's
you're left
shot,
a you're left a bloody mess.
pretty much.
I thought, I mean, I think Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, I can't remember which has more story or a better story, but it's funny that both of those movies came out about the same time. And I don't know, Street Fighter never got a sequel, but this one in '95 surprisingly did. Uh, I didn't watch those movies when they came out because I was like, what's it going to be? It's just fight, and it's just fight after fight, and that's the cool thing about those games is like, all right, the key is I got to find out how to unlock these moves. You know, what all are the moves to, you know, knock it out, and that's the fun part is like, how can I, oh wow, I want to really obliterate that opponent, you know, in that fashion. Great. So you know, seeing that on screen, so I never watched those movies until recently. I think they have, I sought out, I think Mortal Kombat is currently on Peacock. So I sought it out for the first time, and I remember seeing like clips and stuff, and I just cracking up at how hilariously bad Christopher Lambert is in this. It's like, it's just, he had some kind of weird accent. I'm like, I don't know if that's just the way he talks, or because he kind of spoke like that somewhat in Highlander, but
Yeah, he's got a weird voice. Yeah.
I guess he's better off in silent movies, but I don't even know what he's doing now. I mean, this made me think like, what's going on with him lately? I think he showed up in some episodes of Blacklist or something. But so, anyways, I tried to watch it. I really did. I gave it a shot, and I'm just like, I can't do this. I mean, and then I started watching. At first, I thought I was watching the first one when I started playing Mortal Kombat Annihilation on HBO Max, and I realized, I'm like, this clearly isn't the first movie, and I was like, this is nuts. It's really bad, and it's nuts, and
worse than the first.
It is a little bit. I thought. I think the first is bad, but the thing is, I don't know if people really realized it was bad then. I mean, I'm sure they did, but it's like, compared to, like, obviously what I'm trying to say is that it hasn't aged well, and it probably wasn't well when it came out, but it didn't age well. Yeah, it has this forced sense of humor that is just doesn't work, you know. It doesn't, you know, and it's, you know, minus all the gore, so that's no fun for teenage boys. And that's one of the reasons why they played it, right? And the characters are just kind of really, I mean, it's not just that the acting is kind of stiff, it's the characters are just kind of like, you know, and of course the dated CGI didn't help. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, I had friends who really liked this movie a lot, and I think my problem, when I haven't gone back to watch them, but I did watch the new version that we're here to talk about. I promise.
Yes. Yeah, we will.
The preamble.
Yeah.
It's I don't know that maybe I'm too old for these movies, but I don't think that's it. I think it's the same problem that I've been wrestling with a lot of these HBO Max Warner Brothers movies. People thought it was a great idea, you know, because of the pandemic and everyone, when Warner Brothers announced all of our 2021 slate is coming to HBO Max. So when they get a day and date release, you'll be able to watch it on TV or go see it in the theaters, which is the case with this movie.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think, after, you know, the Justice League Snyder cut, after Kong versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus Kong, and now this, you know, it's a gamble, because I feel like they put these out on cable so that people could still see them, but they wouldn't lose their shirts. I don't know that people are going to be rushing out to see these movies in any capacity, like in any way that's going to make a difference. They might make it up in subscribers, but not in butts and seats tickets.
I'm wondering, I'm sure they're tallying, like, with each big release. This is considered, you know, a big release. With each big release, I'm wondering how many people are jumping on for the first time of HBO Max. I'm sure they're calculating that, you know.
But I look at, you know, the Snyder Cut, I don't think would have existed without the HBO Max thing, right?
No.
So you count that out as a theatrical release. Godzilla versus Kong, sure, it's going to have a big opening weekend, but I don't think people are going back to see it in droves the way that they would need to make any kind of a profit. And this movie, there's a lot of problems with this movie. And I just see it as being a big flop. Maybe again, you're going to get the video game fans who want to go see it and everything. And it's bloody, it's R-rated, there's a lot of swearing. And this isn't me talking as the, prudish old man swearing. This is to what you were talking about. Mortal Kombat was an R-rated game that involved a lot of, blood and violence and pretty graphic stuff. But it feels like now that they got the right to do it as an R-rated, do the video game justice, it feels like a 13-year-old sat down to write the script, because you've got F-bombs flying left and right, but they're the most inartful, childish sounding dialogue ostensibly coming out of adults. I'm like, nobody talks like this, even in the damn Tarantino movie.
I didn't notice the profanity.
So you missed the part where the actor or the character Kano, he was not in the version that you watched. Fucking, yeah, fucking.
So that was like, I he probably has all the F words in the movie.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
No.
Okay, all right. I actually like this movie. It's not ironically, it's kind of surprising that I like it.
My screen didn't freeze just then. I'm simply incredulous. Sorry.
I had a good time with it. And again, that's coming in as not like a huge fan who knows everything about these characters and I'm not, I know Scorpion, I know Sub-Zero and blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't, a game aficionado as far as, going nuts on this game went back then, as I established, but, and I didn't bother with, those other movies. So I was like, let's see. The curiosity to me is, let's see what can be done today, 2021, with this, knowing that they're going hard R. And is it going to be different than just like level up, achievement unlocked, come here, and I think it is. I'm so glad that, like, the other movie actually had like da 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 da, music like that, and I'm like, come on, you can't replicate a video game onto a big screen. You really should, if you're going to adapt it, you really should deviate a little bit and make it cinematic and make it different. Take the skeleton and take the bones of it all. Even if you want to, pretty much copy it, do something a little bit different. You can't totally duplicate everything that you see on the video game.
Yeah, well, I mean, because a video game is meant to be these little episodic adventures, right? You're not, well, I'm gonna get a lot of crap for saying this, so I'll say it as artfully as I can, because I know video games have evolved, greatly since Mortal Kombat came out. There are,
and
you look at yes, but you look at games, games that I've heard about people praising, like The Last of Us. People really do play it for the story and not just the graphics or the action or whatever. But with
like reading Playboy. Sorry.
Hey, they do to have some great articles.
Interviews too.
Yeah, the interviews in Playboy were great. That's the one of the tragedies of that magazine going away is they knew how to they had some great interviewers.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's my issue with Mortal Kombat. You said, let's see what they can do in 2021. They still haven't figured out what they can do in 2021, because I'm convinced, here's the problem. When people don't expect much of video game movies, because they're like, what can you do with a video game movie? The answer is you can do anything that you can do with any other premise. It's like saying, what can you do with a comic book movie? There's these cheap little, adventures of people in tights and capes running around on pages. You can create a story that is compelling, that is, emotionally satisfying, visceral. I thought about a movie we talked about a month or two ago called Boss Level, which was not based on a video game, but it dealt in video game aesthetics.
Yeah.
You look at a game like the first, a movie like the first Resident Evil, where it's zombie outbreak in a corporation, and there's a girl named Alice, and she, wears a red dress and shoots people. That you get the right actress, you get the right screenplay, you get the right effects and the right budget. You can make anything happen. I'm convinced you can make an amazing Mortal Kombat movie. It's just, I don't think that the people who greenlit this, the people who wrote it, the people who directed it, think that it's possible to make a legitimately interesting Mortal Kombat movie for adults who want to watch something other than swearing and blood and guts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There is definitely more here than swearing and blood and guts. I mean, I think that there's some, if you just want to see an action movie, a fight movie, um, this is your bag. This is good. Yeah, as far as compelling characters and actors, I don't expect that from a Mortal Kombat movie because
but this is my problem. Nobody expects that.
Yeah.
And so here's my dilemma.
So you're going for the fights.
No. Here's my dilemma as a film critic, because it's very easy for me to say, I'm just not going to watch these video game movies because they're fucking stupid. And then you're going to get the fans of the movies and say, well, you're a snob. You wouldn't deign to come watch a video game movie. You haven't seen it. You can't comment on it. So I'm just waiting for one of these instances where I can sit down and say, I watched the video game movie. I wasn't expecting anything. And you know what? It's actual, to use a Scorsese term, cinema. But I can't. And I'm getting tired of running into this brick wall and be like, why do I, it's like Bart Simpson, why do I keep hitting myself?
I don't know. I mean, I like the way this movie opened. It opened up in I think it's 16, 17.
It was the beginning of Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Maybe.
Exactly,
yeah,
the opening of Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Kinda.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's no spaceships. So yeah. And there's no Mads Mikkelsen. That would have been cool though. I didn't expect a Mortal Kombat movie to open up like that. So that was cool. I mean, it was obviously I could tell where they were going. There obviously whatever is going to be happening in this past is going to play into certain characters in the present day.
Wait, are you suggesting that when the guy says you will remember my face, that you thought
that he'll come
maybe
back?
He'll come back? Wow.
Yeah, totally.
You were way ahead of me on that one.
Yeah. And that one of them would be immortal, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, look, again, I thought that the original Mortal Kombat was pretty cheesy and it was hard to watch. This one, I didn't find this cheesy. I really didn't. I didn't find it hard to watch. I really was, I wouldn't say invested in the characters. And yes, there were definitely some predictable beats and moments, but I was in, and I was a lot more interested than I thought I would be. I guess one of the problems with this movie is we're kind of there's a gateway character, which is kind of one of the main protagonists, Cole Young, played by Louis Tan, who had a role in Iron Fist and was also in Into the Badlands. And he's an okay presence, I guess. I don't think this is his best, acting, or maybe best character. And he is it's very much along lines of like the way, like say a Brandon Lee role, or
I was going to say, he's the exact cross between Brandon Lee and Tom Cruise.
Maybe
Tom Cruise would have played this role 20 years ago.
Maybe like Brandon Lee and Michael Dudikoff. Just not at the Tom Cruise charisma level.
No, but I'm saying he's got that sort of vibe. Like he's the Asylum or the Sci-Fi Channel Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Okay, maybe. Yeah. But look, I didn't mind him. It could have been a lot worse. But I just feel like I wasn't. Part of my problem is in the first 15 minutes is he gets his world totally jacked up, because this Sub-Zero character, Bihan, played by Joe Taslim, who signed on for 4 of these movies.
Well, he's going to have a really chill 3 years because they're not making a sequel.
Yeah, you never know. But yeah, I mean, they're making a Sonic sequel, so geez.
Yeah, but Sonic came out in theaters and made like $1 billion, and was, from what I've heard, was pretty good.
I heard it was pretty good, and I'm still interested in seeing it, primarily for Jim Carrey. So, basically, the gist of the story. The gist of the story is Sub-Zero, who's working for Shang Tsung, right? Shang Tsung, yeah.
Yeah.
Played by Chin Han. I should get a medal at the end of this. And so he is part of the, is it Otherworld or Outworld?
Outworld.
Outworld. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry, the Outworld. And the funny thing about this is, so there's the Earth realm, which is just Earth. Okay, so it's Earth and there's Outworld, and supposedly whoever wins 10 Mortal Kombats gets an instant access to either of those realms.
I guess.
So Earth kind of gets the short end of the stick. Why would you want to visit Outworld or take it over? The place is a dump.
Well, it's got these cool landscapes and all sorts of like weird, freaky people. Now, because if you're talking about the quote unquote mythology of this, it felt to me like there were more of these realms in play, and that these were just two of the
originally. You mean?
Maybe, I don't know, because it didn't seem like it was just a contest between these two, except at the very end when they became the most important. But it's like, we're going to have a tournament of two teams forever.
I think the tournament was, I don't know. As far as I know, it seemed like there was two rounds, and whoever won 10 times in a row gets instant access to that other realm and gets to take it over. But right now, where we're at right now, crucial stakes, movie stakes, Outworld has won 9 times. So, man, if they win again, we're going to get some weird looking visitors. That's pretty much the story. So the Sub-Zero works for this Sang Soon, and Sang Soon's actually also a cheater, which is pretty funny. There's certain Mortal Kombat rules which we don't really know. They just talk about the rules, but it's never really spelled out for any of us. So it's like, you broke the rules. You're not supposed to come out and confront us before the games begin. And we're like, what are the rules? You know, what's so
and at the end, Cole is like, they broke the rules, we can break the rules too. I'm like, what are these rules? And
what are the rules?
And they say this while they're hanging out in the was it the nether or something, the big white room. And I think if you pan the camera to the right, you're going to see. Yeah, if you pan the camera to the right, you're going to see like Neo and Morpheus watching television.
Right.
But it's like, Raiden, who's sort of the overlord of this whole tournament, or at least the guardian of the Earth realm, but he can't get involved for some reason. He's like, no one can follow us in here. I'm like, well, then just stay in there. Like, why?
All right. And then there'll be no Mortal Kombat. Yeah. So the interesting thing too is this movie. It's only interesting because we're Chicago. We're in Chicago. This movie supposedly opens up in the south side of Chicago or in Chicago. I didn't realize that until Jax, who's this jacked up dude who tries to help Cole Young, who tries to help Cole Young, who's also married with a precocious little girl who is hanging out in the ring with him and trying to help him to win. Cole Young plays kind of like he's kind of like a sad sack fighter when we meet him. He's like, for some reason we can't understand why he hasn't been doing well fighting, and just that he's not been doing good. And so his daughter is kind of like in the ring, not in the ring, but it's
that'd be amazing.
That'd be great. She has her own powers. Hang on.
Oh, she would. Oh,
1 second.
Okay. Now I'll just sing the Mortal Kombat theme song. What is the Mortal Kombat theme song? I don't know. Oh, David's back.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was going to entertain people by singing the Mortal Kombat theme music.
I had to let the dogs out, or the dog out.
So the answer to that question is you.
Yeah, exactly. So Jax shows up at a time when Cole Young is just kind of this, sad sack fighter, kind of like cage match type thing. It's MMA type of stuff, and he is getting his butt handed to him once again. It doesn't at times it doesn't even seem like he's trying.
Well, because he gets $200 a match,
which isn't much.
No, it's really not. So I don't know if because the coach doesn't believe in him or the guy who runs the gym or whatever. So I don't know if he's getting paid to lose, you know, but dude, that's a story right there. He's a
It's a
guy who's
story.
paid to lose and then he turns out to be this champion. You know, I thought about after this movie was over, I thought about the movie Warrior with
I was
Tom
just gonna say
Hardy and,
that.
yeah, and Joel
Yeah,
Edgerton.
yeah.
What if you took the drama of the Warrior
Oh my
of
gosh.
Warrior and placed it within this realm where you've got this guy, you find out why he's got this family drama, you find out why he's such a sad sack, and then you
Mhm.
give him a real purpose. I'm not saying you make an Academy Award winning drama. I'm just
Right.
saying approach it from there instead of just saying what's every action movie you're the chosen one cliche that's ever been in any film, video game, comic book, or tissue paper box, and let's
So
put it into this movie.
yeah, I mean, I did compare him to Brandon Lee in that, and I would also he's also almost like an amalgam of maybe Brandon Lee and the not John Claude Van Damme, but the type of John Claude Van Damme characters that he used to play in the early '90s and mid '90s, where he's kind of like this not even really mysterious, but kind of this somewhat depressive loner um, who's complicated. He's a complex guy, and and at least with usually with those Van Damme movies, is he has maybe either a girlfriend or a significant other who you know needs his help or gets kidnapped or something. With this one, at least we have. I felt like there is a movie there, like you said, kind of warrior. There is a movie here, a story here with Cole Young, his wife Allison, and his daughter Emily. I would have appreciated more dynamic with them, at least more time spent with them, because I thought that that was an interesting trio there. But we can't have that as a Mortal Kombat movie. But
That's what I'm saying. People need to divorce that,
mm,
that phrase out of
mhm,
their
mhm,
consciousness. We're thinking
mhm.
about this stuff. If especially, I don't even know if people care about taking this thing seriously. The people who made the movie took it seriously because
Oh, they did.
it looks great. There's some cool set pieces, some great effects, some cool costuming,
Hmm.
and some interesting ideas as far as the fighting goes. But I just wish the people who put this whole thing together were more invested in the story, because it wouldn't have been a stretch to take another month and make this thing entertaining for people who want to give it the respect that they give to any movie.
Yeah, they could have grounded it with a little bit more of a story that could resonate more or connect with people more instead of just like let's get this going.
Yeah.
I understand that mentality though. Let's get this going because honestly, I didn't really see it going anywhere. I wanted it to, so I'm like, you might
Where
as well
did you
just.
want it to go though?
Well, like I said, I would have wanted a little bit more time spent with this interesting family trio, but um, because I knew that they were going there, I was like, all right, let's just get this on the road. And literally, they went on the road because Jack showed up, and he supposedly has this symbol. They didn't really explain what that symbol meant. This is really.
Yeah, they did.
Um,
It's
did
the
they?
birth. It's the sigil of the chosen people who were
Oh,
meant
that's
to fight
right.
Mortal
Chosen.
Kombat, right?
Yeah, there's not chosen ones. Or it's chosen ones symbol, right? There's no chosen one.
Well,
It's
okay,
it's
no, Cole was the chosen one. He's the chosen one archetype, I should say. But
archetype, yes.
and he's
But
also the
if
first one that we are aware of and that they're aware of who's actually born with it, because typically the people who have that sigil are just warriors and they can be fought, and if they're defeated, then the person who defeats them, the sigil disappears from the warrior's body and gets transferred to this other person's body, and then they have to figure out what their X-Men
Arcana,
power is. Yeah.
Arcana, right? Is
Uh,
it Arcana?
it's Arcana or Arcana
Arcana,
or
yeah,
Tropicana. I don't know.
or the Force.
Yes, it's actually it's a midichlorian tattoo. Yeah,
Yeah, and that whole part of transfer was shown later with Sonia Blade, but it wasn't like for somebody like me. I'm like, okay, wait, hold on, rewind. How does this work? It's funny because as the movie goes by, some people die and they disappear. Some people die and it's just like brutal, horrific death. Some people die and they just kind of shrivel up into a skeleton and their karma or whatever is passed away into somebody else. yeah, I guess it's a way to just mix it up and say, hey, we're not going to let everybody die the same. So Jax, poor Jax, he gets his arms ripped off by oh, spoilers, we're in spoilers. He gets his arm ripped off by Sub-Zero in a horrific way, terrible way, basically major frostbite, and then just left for dead. Of course, I was glad, and I knew, because I've seen pictures of the character, that obviously he would live later on. But I'm glad that it wasn't like, oh no, there's this cool black guy and they're gonna kill him off first. That's not good.
Well, this movie did bring back 90s style racism, which I kind of appreciated and I was kind of mortified by. Okay, first of all, yeah, it's the whole trope of like the black guy dies first. But he didn't. I mean, the first of the Warriors sort of, but you had the whole opening scene in which we mentioned in ancient Japan or whatever.
Yeah.
1617.
Yep.
Jax, I still don't know what happened with his character, because he does fight Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero freezes both of his arms off and snaps them off at the shoulder, basically.
Then drops them off.
Drops him. He takes a header off of like this beam on the way down before falling like 60 feet or 100 feet to his I assumed death, because I didn't know this character. I didn't know he was the guy who would have the metal arms and all that, so I figured he was just dead. But then we go to Raiden's temple a half hour later, and he's lying there looking pretty well preserved for a guy who took a header off of a beam on his way down at 60.
I mean, his face looks great.
He was immaculate, but he's alive
compared to Kano. Yeah.
We'll get to Kano.
Yeah, it was really weird because, so Raiden's men were going to be working on him, and there was no mention of we're going to rebuild him. Nothing like that. They're going to do their thing. And Sonia Blade's there because Sonia Blade was tight with Jax, and she's like, what are you going to be doing with him? Or is there anything I can help? It's like, no, and they gave him these initially these baby robot arms, which were pretty hilarious. I kind of agreed with Kano there, but
they're kind of like little Anakin arms.
Yeah. But there's really no explanation as to, okay, what is his arcana or whatever it's called, arcana, Hakuna Matata, is his special unlocked power the fact that his baby robot arms are going to grow into something crazy and powerful like they do?
Yeah, it's almost like he's got magic nanotech, because he eventually gets these giant Hulk arms that
during a fight.
Yes, that can further expand, and what are the limits to him? Can he become a Hulkbuster at some point? I don't know.
Because they basically stay huge, where comparatively to the other arms, and I'm like, okay, but was that part of his power? I don't know. It just seemed a little forced and weird, but anyway, it was just kind of funny that I realized they were in Chicago when I think it was Jax who said, take my SUV, because Sub-Zero's coming after him, take my SUV to Cole Young and his wife and daughter and go to, wasn't it Gary, Indiana or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm like, you don't want to go to Gary, Indiana.
It's the safest place to be.
I'm like, oh, just, I would have liked just some small scenes okay, did you memorize the address? Because he's like, go to Gary, Indiana, and he gives him the address. In the heat of the moment, when there's this guy coming in, are you going to remember the address? I'm not. And it's like, I'm glad my wife's here, so she's got a better memory. Before you go off and die, can you repeat that address? I got to write it down. Or, put it into the truck GPS. I don't know. Anyways,
so we breezed right past Sonia Blade. She's the person.
No, I was getting there.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
I didn't actually mind Sonya Blade. It's kind of funny because her outfit is like this standard 90s female video game action heroine, kind of like along of like Tomb Raider, where you got the tank top, combat pants, belt with a lot, and holsters with a lot of knives.
It's it's very Sarah Connor.
We're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. We're ready to go. That's probably her favorite movie.
Well, I gotta say, to your point, yeah, Jessica McNamee, that's the actress's name.
Yeah,
she's the
she was
highlight
good.
of the movie. I would have watched. There are a few actors, even the actor who played Raiden. I know he's been in some stuff, but I didn't quite recognize him. But there are a
Oh
few
yeah,
actors in here. Even the guy who played Kano, who I thought was one of the most obnoxious characters I've ever had to endure.
yeah.
I was like, I like this actor. I like this actress. I want to see them in anything else. I will follow them, but I won't watch a sequel if they're in it.
Okay. Yeah, I again, I think this is a far superior cast to the other movies, across the board. I mean, come on, Chris. Like I said, Christopher Lambert was ridiculous, and so Lord Raiden here was probably cast more appropriate to the game. And I think, again, like you said, they're all taking this material quite serious, and you know, of course, once we meet Sonia Blade, then eventually we meet Kano, because for some reason he's hanging out there at her place and he's like chained up.
She captured him, I think, and yeah.
For what and for who and who's going to pay her? I don't know. Anyway, I did appreciate now in the original movie. I mean, Lyndon Ashby is supposedly the comic relief in that movie, and it was awful. As the comic relief and kind of a stiff actor to begin with. So Kano is kind of the comic relief in this one, or I don't know. You can't even call it relief because it's more of a comic assault.
Yes.
Yes. Well, he's very abrasive and very assaulting character.
Well,
there's no.
It's strange because he's like Andrew Dice Clay meets Han Solo. He's the loner guy who doesn't care about anybody, on the surface at least, and it turns out under the surface, as we find out later on, but he's just this foul-mouthed, obnoxious guy who won't stop talking and insulting everybody and telling them how much of a badass he is.
He's like that bad guy from Commando, who was also in Road Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Bennett from Commando. He's just foul, big mouth, and I think he's also Australian. The actor here is Australian, but yeah, I don't know if I compare it to Han Solo, but more of like just this, like kind of like the abrasive, obnoxious.
Well, I just did in terms of him being like the rogue, the loner guy who does anything for money. Yeah,
in the group, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure. Yeah, man, he's just like 10 times too much. There's very one-dimensional and very.
Well, back to what I mentioned about the 90s style racism, and I was very surprised, and I will not be surprised if this movie gets some kind of a backlash once people see it. Especially, I hate to bring real world politics into this, but there's that whole Stop Asian Hate movement in this. There's a dinner scene where he is like telling like every offensive Asian stereotype, and it's to get under the skin of these I guess Japanese and Chinese Mortal Kombat masters that are sort of their hosts and their trainers.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really amazing because I'm like, really, is he making jokes about egg rolls and whatever the hell else he was saying? I'm not going to repeat it here, but I thought, yeah, it's R-rated. They're really going for it, but I don't know if this is stuff that's really going to roll with people in 2021.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's offensive, but that's the character. He's offensive. It's
okay. Well, so let's take it. Let's say he was, let's say his hosts were black, and he starts making jokes about watermelon and fried chicken.
He would still be an offensive character who's saying offensive things.
Right, but do you think that that's going to slide with audiences? Right.
I don't think a whole lot of this stuff's going to slide with audiences.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm not going to say. Nothing he's saying there and nothing about that scene is going to endear people and it's not going to win people over. Okay. It's meant to just be like, what? It's like, what is going on here? It's not supposed to be cool what he's saying.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm saying is the climate of entertainment today is there's very little understanding of that kind of nuance. Like, no, he's supposed to be an offensive character. Like, yeah, but he's using actual like racist jokes.
But I understand the climate. I really just don't want people to make movies considering the climate. I really,
I mean, that's been going on. It's been going on for years.
Sure. But I just like, and what you're saying isn't necessarily the gist of the movie, right? It's not. It's a small part of the movie. It's memorable because it's so offensive and it stands out because it's just so assaulting. But there, that's the kind of dynamic that is somewhat predictable and something we've seen before when you get a bunch of rogues together. They're kind of, one of them, or sometimes more than one of them, are gonna rub the others the wrong way, either by being sexist, racist, or misogynist or something. Something ist. It's going to be there, and that. So I'm not going to say I was surprised by it. I didn't think about today's climate when I watched it. I just thought this guy is such an idiot. And I liked the way the two characters, I think it's Kung Lao and I forget the other guy.
It's like Lao Kung or something. They had almost like their names were almost like a
Kung Lao, Li Kang, I think.
Yeah.
Liu Kang. Kang and Kung Lao. I like the way, and these guys seemed. There's another story there too that I would have loved to seen their backstories. That would have been really interesting because they seemed really tight. I love the way that they just kind of rolled with it, and they were almost in as much shock as maybe you were at the way this guy was talking to them, because it's just like, this guy's incredulous, he's ridiculous, he's over the top. Even Sonia Blade was just like, not that Sonia Blade was friends with him, but it's just like, oh geez. Because I mean, he was rattling her cage because she's a woman, all this stuff. It was just like he had no filter at all and no limit, really. And so I did like that whole. I was surprised. There was a part of me that it was like, at one point when they were all like eating dinner. I mean, again, you don't expect to see like all your players eating dinner before Mortal Kombat, and they're just hanging out, and I liked that dynamic because there's all these different, and they're finally all together. There's all these different players, well cast, and I'm like, this is interesting, and it's something I wouldn't have expected. And yes, this is going to be the time where they're going to be razzing each other, maybe some exposition, and maybe a little bit more character development. But I still found it was, kind of an interesting, surprising situation to have like a dinner scene in Mortal Kombat. But yeah, the movie gets along from there. I mean, here's what I would have wanted is more, because Cole Young is kind of our gateway character. I would have wanted a little bit more, especially when we go from his family being attacked, this whole thing with Jax, and then all of a sudden, dropping off his family at some, like, I don't know,
like a farm or
like
something.
some kind of like Evil Dead cottage. No, not that bad, but some kind of like, cottage, a remote somewhat cottage, and then going to meet Sonya Blade. But it just seemed so, easy for him to do and no big deal. I'd be like, what the heck is going on here? I can't believe this is happening. Can't believe this is happening. He just seems so like, well,
that's
okay.
because this movie, first of all, it's horribly edited. But second of all, it cares so little for what passes for a story that there's a moment of a betrayal. It's not much of a betrayal because Kano was either going to go one way or the other. But
yeah.
But one of the head bad guys' minions who has a beef with Kano, like a personal vendetta.
It's a Cabal.
Yeah, Cabal, who is essentially Raphael from the Ninja Turtles in like a bad like suit of armor. He's just like, he's this guy from Jersey. Hey, yo, Kato, I got a beef to settle with you. Which is really, it's just really disconcerting listening to that coming out of that costume.
It was weird. It shouldn't have happened.
But when he shows up to like, hey, Kato, if you betray your friends, you could have your own realm. And he's like, all right. And then so that whole exchange from that in the offer to Kano, like stealing the dragon head or the, disarming the force field or whatever, was like a minute.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's no internal struggle. There's nothing. And then the movie just moves along. And then later, when there's the big climactic battle, or the battle before the big climactic battle, Goro, the giant,
Oh yeah, the four
the
armed guy.
yeah, the General Grievous of this movie, because this movie loves Star Wars. He shows up, and there's a scene where all the bad guys are attacking the good guys at the temple. At this point, Cole has defected. He's like, I'm just going to go
Mhm.
back to be with my family so that I can come back in 10 minutes and
Right,
fight
right,
the
right.
good guys.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he goes back to this cottage. When Goro rips through the door, okay, first we're in the arena, and
Mhm.
then the characters, I think they stop and they look like they're reacting at something.
Yeah.
Then you see Goro's hands coming through the door. I'm like, okay, Goro's entering the arena. But
No,
no, it turns out he's coming out of this barn up in the
that
cottage, and then they're fighting each other and they keep bouncing back and forth. So you don't know where the hell you are for like 7 minutes.
I know what you're saying, where those characters like looking off at somewhere else, and I was like, oh, what are they gonna, maybe some portals opening up or something? I'm like, interesting. And then when I realized that the editor was just gonna go back to, um, I guess Raiden's temple, back to the cottage where Cole Young's family is or whatever. I'm like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. It's just gonna go from fight to fight to fight and back and forth. Fine. I actually liked that all the fights weren't necessarily at an arena for Mortal Kombat.
Well,
For
I was, yeah, I was glad that they, because that's how it was up until
yeah,
very late in the movie, and then they decide, hey, we can, use it to our advantage. Raiden can send us literally anywhere, and so
yeah.
that's where this movie becomes the video game. They're going to
Mhm,
go off to these different locations. It's going to be like 1-versus-1 battles. They're all
mhm,
going to get their fatalities, and honestly, that's when the movie really kicked into me. And I sat there thinking, I was kind of in that Godzilla versus Kong mode where I'm like, if this had just been an hour and a half
of
of
this.
yeah, forget about any pretense of story. We're just going
Mhm,
to cut between these battles going on.
mhm,
If they're better shot, better edited, and better choreographed than they are in this movie, I could have been interested, because honestly, the fatalities, which is what people are really showing up for, and you only get like 5 minutes of them total in this movie,
mhm.
and it's at the very end. They're pretty cool. There's some
Yeah.
inventive deaths in this thing.
Oh yeah. Excuse me.
No,
That's
that's how
kind
I felt watching this movie. So you're in
of.
good company.
Especially the way the winged character, I think Melina, dies. I mean, that was pretty great when she was fighting
No, 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 no,
Kung
no, no, no,
Lao.
no, Hat Man.
Yeah, Kung Lao. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was pretty funny. I actually was pretty impressed with how that wound up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the fight, like Cole Young exiting, and then I guess Goro gets transported to where he's at. I actually like the fact that, oh wow, there's like some drastically different stakes here, because it's not just Goro versus Cole Young. It's like, you know, his family's in jeopardy, and
No, they're not. They're not in jeopardy.
okay, I understand.
I know they
There
wanted to
is,
draw the parallel
yeah,
between what happened at the very beginning of the movie, where the mother and daughter
right, of
actually were
course,
killed.
and they kind of do at the end of this. But I to change things up a bit and to get it out of this like arena type style.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it was all taking place on what seemed like somewhat of a farm or something. And that's where he got, because his family's in jeopardy, and he's being pressured and all this stuff. That's where he gets his arcana,
He basically gets
a
like,
gold suit.
it looks like he gets a third of the suit that Wonder Woman got at the end of 1984.
Or something from like the wardrobe from Gods of Egypt, the movie I haven't seen yet. But
We got to talk about that movie. I have not seen it,
yeah,
but
we
I
should
would
watch
watch
that
that.
sometime.
We'll
I
do a
heard
double feature of that and Sonic Hedgehog.
Yeah, I actually hear it's ironically good. But yeah, I mean, that was interesting. But then again, I honestly, as a character, I would have been a lot more freaked out by all of a sudden I got this like, nicely stylized, skin tight gold armor, and I seem to be absorbing power or something, because it starts to glow red. And what am I supposed to do with this? And
What would have been, they would never do this in this movie, but they're setting it up for the sequel because, of course,
yeah.
the dragon sigil can be passed down from,
Hmm.
I guess it's a genetic thing or whatever. but they're going to start training the next generation of heroes. So Cole's daughter is probably going to end up fighting in one of these movies if they get past movie number 2,
Possibly.
which I'm fine with. I
I
just think
don't.
I think it would have been funny if Cole got that suit and then he got these like little spike gauntlet things that come out of his hand too.
Mhm.
If that had happened and he just, like you're kind of saying, freaked the hell out and just ran and started cowering in a corner, like couldn't move, and he's like, I can't do this, I can't fight, and then the daughter has to stop him. She's like, Dad, come on.
The wife gets obliterated, and the daughter's
They
just
go
hanging
off.
out there.
Well, no, the wife and the daughter, they go off and fight Mortal Kombat while the
That would
champion
be
is just like
cool.
crying in the corner, wetting himself.
Find a happy place. Find a happy place. That would have been hilarious. That would have been
instant 5-star movie for me.
That would have been tragedy to the Hasashi bloodline. I had to read that. Hasashi bloodline.
I don't know why I was supposed to care about them, so they can have all the tragedies they want.
I know. But okay, I did say I like this movie. So I did definitely like, aesthetically, I think it looks much better than 1995 Mortal Kombat. And come on, it should, right?
Yeah.
If you compare Goro now to Goro then, oh boyo.
Was Goro 95? Was that practical effects or was that digital?
I think that was what they could with digital. I don't think it was practical, because it looked like a video game, and that's not a compliment. This was actually pretty well done. Gosh, I mean, there were times when I thought of like Dwayne Johnson from Scorpion King a little bit, but it wasn't even that bad. It was much better than that. So yeah, like you said, Cole Young goes back to the fight. I got to go back. Lord Raiden kind of becomes like Heimdall. He knows just when to transport his heroes back into place. And I did like this whole dynamic where initially there's this kind of both Shang Tsung and Lord Raiden were both like, these are my heroes, or these are your heroes. Come on, this is pathetic. Because they're bickering at the dinner table. They're not that powerful, and it's not even that they're not that powerful. And we're talking about the ones from the Earth realm, not the ones who are already at the temple, like Liu Kang and Kung Lao. Those guys know what they're doing, and Sonya Blade is very well adept. But again, we got this sad sack Cole Young who's just like, I haven't won a fight in a while, and they're trying to train him and everything, and they're just like, that's what was funny. It was like Lord Raiden at one point is like, I'm gonna send you back. I mean, you're not gonna help us. You're kind of worthless to us. You need to find your chi or whatever it's called, and I actually like that. I'm like, oh, we're going here. We're just kicking him out. I mean, good,
I think one of the things I would have been more impressed with, and I know this is impossible because she was an actual character in the video game who had powers, but Sonya Blade's whole thing is that she's just, a military operative, or ex-military or whatever.
Yeah.
She kicks all kinds of ass. She's super smart,
Mm-hmm.
but she kind of has this complex because she's with all these super powered, chosen, destined warriors, but she's just not playing at that level.
Right.
She eventually, after she kills Kano by stabbing him through the eye with a gnome, the same gnome that he spit perfectly in earlier in the movie. Yeah. She gets his dragon sigil, so now she has powers. She can blast purple photons out of her arms. I think it would have been much more interesting if, and in a different kind of movie that actually cared about ideas, what if she could hold her own? What if she was the Hawkeye or the Black Widow of the Avengers, the person who can stand toe to toe with, a lightning god and a giant green monster, and still be taken seriously in a fight.
Or even as the tactical mind, which she probably did.
Yeah, she could be the Oracle,
Yeah, she could have the tactical mind to kind of like come up with some kind of game plan as far as attacking, their opponents.
Yeah, it just felt kind of cheap to me. Like the only way she could really be of value was to get these same magical powers as everybody else.
It was kind of messed up because then you have this very adept and capable, woman, and all these guys are like, you're not as powerful as us, and eventually, thankfully, they give her something to do, and she becomes a lot more. Let's say she levels up,
Well, but I think that, imagine the the message that would have sent if they got into the typical darkest hour situation where all the superpowered guys are having their butts handed to them, and then she swoops in without powers, but only using her strength and her,
Yeah,
talents and intellect to help them out of that pinch.
that would have been great. I think there's a moment where didn't Lord Raiden was just like he was kind of like impressed by her. He was like, "Whoa," I think eventually there was that scene where he was like surprised and impressed by all of them that they're still alive, but except poor Kung Lao. But yeah, and there's this whole thing with like if we would have known a little bit more about Shang Tsung, the main baddie, like okay, he wants to take over Earth. I guess he wants to rule the world. I don't know. Cue the Tears for Fears song. And then he has this whole soul sucking power, which is we've seen it done so many times in movies. A lot of times, martial arts types movies and stuff, or sci-fi movies, soul sucking power. Okay. Does he need that to stay young? Like Big Trouble in Little China type thing. I don't know. It
No, I
just
mean,
seems
it's just this arbitrary. It's
very
going back to
arbitrary.
the video game. It's just what that character did.
Yeah,
We never found out. At least I would assume that there's no like elaborate backstory of why he needs to suck souls. It's just
that
a
wasn't
cool.
a game then.
I
I
I
think
seem to
so.
remember,
Yeah.
I was like Mortal Kombat adjacent. I knew people who played it. I heard, bits and pieces, but then again, it could have been a character from Street Fighter for all I know. But I seem to remember something about a guy who could suck out your soul.
It's hard to believe
So,
Street Fighter was Raul Julia's last movie. Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
horrible M. Bison collar that just really accentuated how freaking sick he was during that movie.
It's really sad.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the soul sucking, I liked the effect with the kind of green energy and it's like
Yeah.
little green ball, which was like the little green tic tac of light that was the last thing to go.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just, oh, this is the part where we're gonna see this guy's fatality. I could just
Yeah.
It's like the people who made this movie and they know who they're writing to, so I guess I just have to respect that they know who their audience is. This is the moment where the people are going to be sitting up in their on their couches or in the
Mhm.
theater going, yeah, here's the part,
Yeah.
he's going to do the thing, he's going to do
That's
the thing.
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I did like how some powers were, visualized, especially Sub-Zero with the ice and everything. That was pretty interesting, pretty cool, especially when he's introduced in Gary, Indiana, and they're at a diner and it starts to like kind of snow and then it gets heavier into like hail and then ice. And that was interesting.
But what where that bit lost me
Mm,
was when he lifts up all the snow into
yeah.
the air and then
And then
throws
just
it down. I saw that 21 years ago, Sir Ian McKellen, the first X-Men movie with the damn cop cars. Like it's the
sure.
same
Sure.
framing. It's the
Sure.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. Very much so.
I'm
Um,
watching this movie. I'm thinking about all the other movies. I'm wondering why am I thinking about other movies when I'm watching that something ostensibly new?
sure. Yeah.
People deserve better than this.
Yeah. What kind of people though? I mean,
Everyone.
um,
Otherwise,
yeah.
there needs to be a disclaimer on these kinds of things. In addition, PG, PG-13R, there needs to be some kind of a label you can put on here that on these types of movies to say this is something that if you watch movies, this is going to be something you've never seen before.
It's funny that this, yeah.
Or it could be
No,
like, don't bother, you've seen this before. In which case I'll just keep going.
I don't know if this is, obviously they're at the end, they're teasing a sequel because they mentioned Johnny Cage. He's I guess a Hollywood star, and Cole Young is going to recruit him because we need to recruit more people for the future. I don't know if this is going to turn out to be like a Fast and Furious franchise or anything like that. I mean, I could I know
Crossover.
it could be a crossover. That's funny because this week they mentioned a possible crossover between the Fast and Furious movies and the Jurassic World movies. I'm like, please stop. But it's funny also that this week the Marvel released the trailer for Shang-Chi, and the same week that this movie is coming out, and so very, very deliberate. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. It's like, yeah, don't forget, we also have a martial arts movie coming out September. That one looks pretty interesting, and I'm very interested to see what they do with that character. But again, I mean, you are kind of catering to a certain degree of fan base with both these properties. Let's say, should we call them movies? We call them properties.
Properties is probably more apt.
Yeah,
I mean, I saw the Shang-Chi trailer, and I have less than zero interest in that movie, except to find out how it ties into Marvel. Because I'm sorry, with all of the Asian themed films, these big blockbusters that we keep getting, we get Raya and the Last Dragon, the remake of Mulan, Mortal Kombat, now Shang-Chi.
The Farewell. Oh, sorry.
Well, that also had Aquafina in it.
Yeah.
But no, they all seem to have this almost like a McAsian culture. Like I've seen all of these trappings in movies going
so they're
back
Irish
decades.
and Asian.
No, like McDonald's, but do you remember when they had like they had this like
teriyaki burger?
Well, I was gonna say they had like this whole like not the sweet and sour sauce, because they still had that at one point, but back in like the 80s, they went through this whole like Asian
like international burgers or international, or was it Burger King?
Oh,
I think it was actually McDonald's. It might have been because they had like the international chicken sandwiches at Burger King.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny, when I was digging through my crap in my basement, not my crap, but my junk. No, that sounds terrible. I was digging through old papers and things in my basement. I found from 1998. I don't know why I saved this, but when when Mulan came out, they had special packaging for the chicken nuggets to look like a fried rice box with Mulan. I actually have it. It is up the pressed cardboard. I saved it. But no, it's just this whole point of like, they're supposed to, I guess some people might call it pandering to the largest, movie going market on the planet. Others might try and say it's, we're expanding our cultural horizons. All I see is just this Americanized fetishing of Asian culture without anything new. I'm like, I'm watching all this stuff that I've seen 100 times. Like, is this all they have to offer?
I mean, I think when people see the Shang-Chi trailer and they see that it's Marvel and they see it's MCU, I think there's probably, if they didn't know about that character and how he came out.
I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, no, I'm saying if they didn't know about that character came out in the 70s when Marvel was just kind of like, hey, kung fu movies are big and popular. Let's get a kung fu character. Hey, disco. Let's put Dazzler on roller skates. And all sorts of things. They were trying out all sorts of things. I think if you didn't know that, you're thinking, oh, they want to do with the Asian culture what they did with Black Panther, and okay, fine. Yeah. So again, I can understand that point of view, but I think that for those who are really well versed and enmeshed in these properties, I think that's the percentage of viewers that this is for. Even going back to Mortal Kombat here. I mean, at the same time, though.
Well, I guess my question is, because I'm watching that trailer and you're saying you're kind of interested to see where it goes. I watched that trailer. I'm like, I know they didn't show as much of the movie as I'm sure they could. I'm sure they left out a lot of the set pieces and special effects.
Plenty of time for that.
But as far as the story goes, I'm like, I know exactly everything that's going to happen, down to Aquafina's annoying ass jokes, down to he's gonna be this guy who's the chosen one and discovers he's got powers. And I mean, even the freaking poster that they released looks exactly like the Captain Marvel poster, down to the colors, the pose. I'm just like, it almost feels oddly racist to say that we're gonna have our Asian representation in a movie that is like bathed in this Asian fetish kind of like totem culture, this representation, instead of just like, how about you just have a new character who's like the new Tony Stark, but he's just an Asian guy. He doesn't go around like, oh, I'm sorry, here are my gold chopsticks. No, I just use a damn fork. There's that. It's a weird, almost like petting different cultures on the head, saying we care about you, but we're just going to revel in stereotypes and make billions of dollars off of that.
Well, we'll see what happens when they get the Canadian heroes.
Oh, what, Alpha Flight? Is
Alpha
that?
Flight, yeah, they've teased at that. I'll be like, okay, what about that demographic? I get what you're saying. I think I'm really more interested in, like, I think that's the same director who did Short Term 12, Dustin, I forget his name, but I'm interested to see what somebody like that is going to do with a movie like this. Speaking of which, going back to the fact that Mortal Kombat was directed by Simon McQuoid, and it's his first feature-length movie.
And his second thing he's ever done, apparently.
That's crazy. I mean, in and of itself, that makes me a little bit more impressed with this movie, because, wow. And again, I think that this movie, the benefit here is it's taking itself a lot more seriously. I think the cinematography and the action sequences are much better. A lot of people recently have been praising Twitter and whatnot. They've been praising the production values in the original Mortal Kombat movie. I'm like, okay, maybe some sets and stuff and some lighting, but overall, no. Come on. I think that what they're doing here, a lot of it feels very, I'm not going to say totally grounded or real world, but it actually feels like places, maybe not so much outworld, but
well, that's something that I will give it credit for, because, again, what I do remember seeing of the video game, and again, I'll say this could have been something from Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, but I do remember the environments were really impressive. So when you've got Kano and Sonia Blade fighting in, it'll almost look like a trailer park, like her
but they go back to her. Yeah, they go back to her home. Yeah,
right. And they're fighting, and it's like this really weird, dark neighborhood at night. I'm like, I could see that as like one of the scrolling backgrounds on a video game of them just like fighting it's not just, in space or like some military installation somewhere. It's like a suburban home.
Yes. Or even at the climax, the location of the climax at the end there, the climactic fight. I think that was, again, I didn't play the game all the time, but I think that was one of the levels where when you're fighting Sub-Zero, you're in an atmosphere where it's all icy, not all the time, but like maybe one of the last times you fight him, it's like on his terms, everything's like icy and icicles everywhere and everything. So it seemed like they were back in the place where Ko Young fought. Didn't it seem like that? Where it was like, but it was just all covered in ice. Like, the
I honestly
gym,
don't remember where
the boxing gym or whatever, or what, I don't know. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then seeing, of course, remember my face dude comes back, part of the Hanashi lineage, call back to the opening of the movie. I didn't mind that so much. He's like, I'm now Scorpion. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? But
well, yeah, he when he died, he spent the next couple hundred years in hell, like staring at a blade.
Yeah.
And then he was finally able to come back because Cole got the blade and he used it. But the thing that drove me nuts about Scorpion is he kept taking his mask on and off, like more than Spider-Man does in any of those movies. Like in the last 5 minutes, he keeps like, I am Scorpion.
It would have been amazing. Like,
still Scorpion.
It would have been great if he was like, pardon me, I've been in hell for the last 100 years. And it's just, I got a lung condition.
And I'm sorry, he uses the fires of hell against Sub-Zero, and Sub-Zero is just mildly burnt at the end. I mean, he's clearly dead, but I'm like, those are hell's getting kind of weak.
That's what's kind of funny is like, okay, even in the game, when the game came out, I was like, oh, really funny. So the character who's going to be best against Sub-Zero is somebody who manages fire really well. I'm like, okay, fine. So that was inevitable. Yeah, I mean, overall, I again, I liked the fighting and everything, and the way it looked, and I didn't mind, like, even the way it ended, leading up to a sequel. I'm like, okay, if they're gonna do that and go there, I'm interested in another movie.
They could have at least ended with that song, "You're the best around."
That would be
You know,
awesome. Or
a techno remix of it.
something like, even him like on a plane to LA and just some kind of like, LA song, like, I don't know.
California Dreamin'. No.
Yeah, California Dreamin', or California Girls. I don't know. Yeah. Again, I'm glad that the humor in the movie was, dialed down, way down compared to the original. You have really one main character, Kano, who is, just the obnoxious comic assault, not comic relief. And also the way like Kano gets his power, he's like all excited about a laser beam coming out of his right eye. I mean, I'm not expecting a guy like him to be freaked out over that, but he got like way too hyped and psyched about that.
Well, I think it's mostly because he was one of the first people to manifest his powers out of the group of new recruits.
Out of like what, anger, right? He's like just like losing his cool and going nuts.
Yeah, and I think that was at the dinner scene where he was like making all those racist comments, and then the other two were giving him a hard time. Yeah. Which, again, Kano is, all of these characters are supposed to be cool and kind of badass, right?
Yeah.
The ones that you want to play because they've got the powers and everything,
the cool moves.
So again, there's nothing really as pathetic and offensive a character as Kano is. He's still kind of played off as the cool, funny guy, which there's something rubbed me the wrong way about it. Usually
I would say obnoxious, but right, not cool. Yeah.
No, I would say cool because he's got he's like a cool villainous kind of character, who's attacking and assaulting. I could see people rooting for him in some sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
He's like the Michael Rooker of the movie.
Yeah, and everybody loves Michael Rooker.
Yeah. Again, I know we talked about expectations going into a movie like this, but I wound up liking a lot more than I would have. I'm not well versed in all things Mortal Kombat. I didn't really like, for example, they're attacked by a reptile, in Sonya Blade's place. Some of the effects on how they did that was kind of interesting, but after a while it was just like, okay, if you're not in the know and you didn't know that there was a character named Reptile who was more of a humanoid type, character, just happened to be named Reptile, this wouldn't be all that interesting to you. And it's like, who sent that Reptile character to them? Was it? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, a couple of problems there. I mean, of the many we've talked about. First of all, the scene in the other dimension, the outworld, there's a couple of them where the lead bad guy is talking to his henchman. I kept having flashbacks to the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe because it's kind of the same, like a weird assortment of like oddball, badly designed characters, plotting stuff. But this lizard monster, it's got acid for blood. It bleeds, and that was the one bit of invention, I think, or one of the very few in this movie where it bleeds on Kano and he actually uses it to break free of the chains that he's in. But then he sticks his hand into the creature's chest and pulls out his heart, and somehow his arm isn't melting at all. No, it's fine.
No, he's fine. I guess it's just acid from here up. I don't know.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I got that. And then later on, when I'm talking about the editing problems of this movie, we establish, and I went back and I rewound this because that was the only thing I had to care about in the climax of this movie. When Cole is in his Wonder Woman gold chest plate and he goes into the area where he's going to fight Sub-Zero, he goes in, he's got the gauntlet things that are sticking out of his arms, but he jumps or he falls or something, and he's like doing a tumble, and I guess it was the stuntman, but the things are gone from his hands. I'm like,
really?
Do they retract or did they fall off? But then, like, no, but then he jumps up and he's like, he's got him on them again.
You just can't tumble with them. That's the thing.
Yeah, I guess they evaporate.
Yep. I think those are called tonfas.
Tonfas?
Tonfa. Tonfa.
Oh, okay.
Tonfa.
Oh, I was going to say tongue fuzz. That sounds like a
tongue fuzz. Yeah.
No, this movie was not a ton of fun.
This is I mean, honestly, having recently visited, I'm not going to say revisited, the first Mortal Kombat. When I saw that reptile attack in this movie, compared to like some of the weird creatures that show up in the Outworld, like how they were animated, like it looked really bad. Like I probably, if I would have seen it in '95, I would have thought that looks really bad, and it looks even worse now. But at least most of what we see here is done well, and it's just, is it anything unique or different? Not really, but the fact that it plays itself seriously, it's well cast, good action sequences.
I would debate
that. Yeah, okay. I think there were good action sequences here. And you're not, it didn't seem crazy loyal to the video game. Like, for example, I think in the original movie, they actually had those lines like shouted out, like, come here. And that was in this movie, but just not like prominently, like, ah,
Right.
it wasn't like a Scott Pilgrim thing or anything like that, thankfully. But, I think it was when Liu Kang, Liu Kang kills one of them, or it might have been either Liu Kang or Kung Lao. He killed somebody, and he turns around and he goes, flawless victory. Yeah, it was Kung Lao, because then he goes like this.
The hat, yeah.
And I like that, because usually in the game, when you kill somebody, it goes flawless victory. I like those nods to the game. It wasn't too overt, and it wasn't too like, obnoxious. So
yeah, I like that scene in particular. Later on, when they say the word fatality, that was just kind of out of place.
Like, okay, why would you
Yeah.
say that?
Yeah, you've killed people before. Yeah.
Guy's dead.
Right. Man,
I would have been like, ha, ha, fatality.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing: you've spent a good deal of time, and I'm not holding this against you, but you've spent a good deal of time comparing this to the '95 film. So I guess my question is, it's kind of like, yeah, I got my thumb chopped off, but it's a lot better than when I lost my leg a couple years ago.
True.
So I don't know. I'm curious if we could visit the alternate dimension where you had no context other than this movie itself.
Honestly, look, if I hadn't have seen that movie recently, or parts of it, I think I still would have liked this, just because I was going in thinking, look, there was even a Double Dragon movie.
I remember
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't even bother with that. And it's like, I know what these movies can be. And so I don't know if I was so interested in, checking this out. If it hadn't have been on HBO Max, I don't think I would have, paid money to go see it. But, I don't regret watching it. And, it didn't put me to sleep. So
yeah, we were talking before he jumped on here. I watched this in 2 parts, because I started at like 9 o'clock last night. It came to 10 o'clock. I'm out, because there was still another. Why is this movie almost 2 hours long? I don't know. But here's the weirdest part about this. I knew this movie was coming out. I had no real history with the game or the other films, so I watched the trailer. The trailer made me excited to see this movie, because you get all the best bits in the trailer. There's some really good, the editing in the trailer is much better than the editing in the actual film, because it's really exciting and kinetic, and you see things like, I feel like I haven't really seen this before.
Yeah.
But in the context of these more drawn out fights, while I was watching, my eyes just glassed over, possibly because I'd seen the big, not necessarily the fatalities, but some of the cooler effects in the trailer. But yeah, I was let down by this movie, because watching that trailer, I thought maybe this is going to be a video game movie for adults and not just an adult rated video game movie. And it turns out it really wasn't. This is a movie for teens.
I don't know. I don't know what teens would really be interested in it, because honestly,
actually, I could say teens who are both actual teenagers and developmentally arrested adults.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily a knock. It's just a fact.
No, I mean, I think that this is primarily going to draw 40 somethings who really played this game a lot when they were younger. you know,
Yeah, that's
I know that's what you just said, but I'm spelling it out. But
you're mortal combating it for the audience.
I totally I'm bludgeoning them. But I think that there's some, I don't know. I would, with the characters that are left in this movie, I think that there's some interesting places that we could go. There's one really interesting scene with, I don't think it's going to go there. I just wish that there would be just a little bit more. Like I mentioned, Liu Kang is an interesting character. And the way he takes out, I think, Cabal with this like dragon that comes alive and just basically devours him. Mm-hmm. That was interesting and very cool. I just wish that maybe the next movie would take some time, which it probably won't, would take some time and give us some, you know, a little bit more characterization for these actors, these characters here, these players.
Yeah.
And you know, I think there's some potential there, because I was a lot more intrigued by, okay, well, wait, hold on, what's his story? That's this guy's interesting. But anyway,
well, I guess we'll find out, or we won't. I don't know.
I do want a baby arm action figure of Jax. That'd be good. Get the little, hey Jax.
Keep your fetishes off this show. Anyway, thank you for indulging me, and we've been talking for almost the runtime of this movie.
Oh my gosh,
we're only ridiculous. Like 20 minutes short.
That's
but
ridiculous.
No, thank you for engaging with me in Mortal Kombat. We're still both alive. We're still friends, which is impressive.
Maybe as we close here, you could just scroll the Mortal Kombat rules.
I don't know what they are.
And they should. That's how they should have ended this movie, with end credits of just all the rules. You know.
Oh, I before you go, I did want to mention. Mm-hmm. This was a big selling point for me. I really liked the end animation where it's like these blood splatters of the different character profiles. I thought that was really.
You mean during the end credits?
Yeah, during the end credits. Yeah.
You
know, we've seen that kind of thing before, particularly in Marvel movies. But there was something really nice because it wasn't really 3D looking. It was just this, you know, red and black, very simple, like 2D animation, but getting some real dimension to these portraits of the characters.
I thought it was cool. I didn't expect that. I thought it was cool. You're probably like me, where you did stick around and see if there's going to be some kind of a end credit scene.
I scrubbed. I did not stick around. I scrubbed.
I did. I stuck around for a little while, and then afterwards, I'm like, all right, fast forward. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Nothing. Sorry.
No, but. Yeah. I'm not sorry that we had this conversation. As I surmised, I was more entertained by this than I was the rest of the actual film. So hopefully the folks watching this and sticking with us for an hour and a half feel the same way. So thank you, David Fowley, of keeping it real. I'll be talking to you by the time this goes up tonight for the season finale of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier mission report.
Yes, sir.
So we'll be talking even more.
Jeez. What's in the box?
Well, I'm sure we'll find out. But I want to know who's gonna be. I'm concerned about that boat. I tell you, that boat is a goner. If you have no idea what we're talking about, watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier and watch the Falcon and the Winter Soldier mission report on this channel. Woo-hoo! Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Till then, sir, have a good night.
Adios.
Finish him. Wait, that's Karate Kid.
Oh yeah. Well,
fatality.
No, it's this movie too.
Oh,
flawless.
Wait. Oh no, we missed it.
Flawless ending.
Flawless ending. There was also let's finish this. We got that twice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's really finish this now.
Hey, you know, there's some life lessons that need to be, you know, put out there. So finishing things are always good. So that's what it's teaching the kids.
But you don't want to finish too soon. That's not something we should teach kids. All right, good night. I'm shutting this down.
Good night.